Okay, Jessica. The first season of your show, The Path, just wrapped up on Hulu. Uh, Take us back to the beginning. Where did the idea for the show come from?
It's sort of mysterious where it came from. I had a very sort of had my own little existential crisis. I lost a parent and got divorced basically within a year, and I sort of had one of those moments that I guess most people go through, where the foundation of your life suddenly feels like the rug gets pulled out from under you. And I find writing very mysterious. I never know how you get from point A to point B, but I had this sort of idea of writing about what it feels like when suddenly you feel like, in the pilot, Cal talks about Plato's cave, when you feel like your life is shadows.
Hmm. So then how did you get to the idea of setting it within this faith-based cult movement?
Sure. I grew up in Woodstock, New York in like the 70s, 80s, and I was always very sort of, I found like we had a lot of social utopian experiments happening, and there were a lot of people seeking, very sort of, meaningful ways to live their lives. And I was very moved by that as a kid. And I thought, let me put, and faith is become such a hotbed topic right now. Just, you can't open the newspaper without reading about extreme faith and how it's affecting the world. And I just, sort of took the feelings I was having and put it in that heightened environment.
Mm-hmm. So did you do any kind of research into these kinds of groups to get inspiration for what you did in The Path?
Sure. I mean, I tried to sort of veer away from cults because I wanted to stay away from things that were negative, and instead look at where faith becomes extreme, in just Judeo-Christian religions. And also just look at like these movements, these countercultural movements that come up that offer, meaning, because I think that's something we're all sort of seeking.
Mm-hmm. So take us back to writing the pilot. What were some of the initial bad ideas that you threw out, or how long did that take you? What was that process like?
This is like such a gift, this whole show, because it was like the first time in so long I was working on parenthood as a writer, and I just said, I'm going to go write something for myself. I hadn't written something for myself in so long, so I just went in a room and wrote this thing, and I didn't quite know what it would be. And this story came out, and I'm sure there were tons of bad ideas in it, but I gave it to Jason Kadams, who I worked with on Parenthood, and he just fell in love with it, because at its heart it was about a marriage, and it was about human beings, and it was about this sort of emotional hole we all carry. So even though it was like a little different than Friday Night Lights and Parenthood, it had that same sort of, it was really about like the human condition in a way that he likes to explore. So he got behind the show, and then we worked on it a little, and then took it out to try to sell it.
Mm-hmm. I think that's what's so interesting about the show, is that I think a lot of people go to it for the thought of getting some kind of a inside look or expose into cultish Scientology type things, but at its core, it's really about this family. I mean, there's this great drama there with them. That's it's like the show is about two things at the same time, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of when we did research, when writers eventually came on board, we found like you can go online and people really are suffering. Like this crisis that Aaron Paul's character is having of not believing. I mean, you can go in these chat rooms and, super Orthodox Jews or Mormon, you see that this is a really painful, real journey that people have, where they are, there's something that they've stopped believing in that puts them in opposition to their family.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned selling the show. I wonder if you could talk a bit more about that. How did you end up at Hulu? What made them the best choice for this?
They they wanted to do it. It was not an easy sell. People are very afraid of religion, especially religion that is as complicated as I think we're trying to do it in this show. And so Hulu, I think they saw the family part. They saw what it could be. They saw that that it had, that it could strive to tell stories about people, about all of us.
Mm-hmm. So I want to talk a bit about the cast. Aaron Paul, what made him the right choice for this character? How'd you arrive at him?
I had, this little dream board in my office, and I just sort of thought about, he's so soulful. Like, he just like says something and your heart breaks. And you also feel like, you have to feel, I think, with that character in particular, that this is a person who is deeply, deeply damaged, who could come to this place and it would become his whole life, And so Aaron has that, he has that broken boy, in him. And I just found that, and I mean, it was, and even once I saw him do the show, it was better than it even was in my head, because he just brings this, like, you really believe him, that he is struggling so deeply over his faith and his family.
Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting to see him in this type of a role too. I mean, I remember when first couple of seasons of Breaking Bad, I never thought this guy would end up playing a father to somebody,
But he's so, I mean, I buy him as a man, as a father. I mean, I just completely, there's no question about it to me when watching him in the show.
Mm-hmm. So Michelle Monaghan as his wife, did you audition a lot of people for that, or did you try to see who worked well together?
Those two are exactly the same. I thought of both of them. I loved True Detective. I thought it was just, that first season was incredible. And she's like, she's like gorgeous, but she's fierce and brave, and she can be punishing. She can be so kind. I think there's like facets of this actress that no one had. I mean, you saw a little bit of, but it's so exciting to have her in this role. But she was definitely someone that we all immediately thought of.
Mm-hmm. And then Hugh Dancy. I think that's the kind of role that could be so easy to turn into like a cartoon villain, but there's some real subtlety there too.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. I mean, he was the last person to come to the show. I've told the story before, but he, I never even put his name down because he was doing Hannibal, and we were really struggling trying to figure out like who could, because exactly as you pointed out, it's probably the hardest role. It's this person has to be charismatic, but he can't be, hopefully he has to be complicated. He has to be damaged. You have to sort of root for him. And yet, he's pretty intense. And he has to be incredibly smart. And then, so we were just sort of struggling, not sure what we would do. And then all of a sudden that show got canceled, and we all got super excited.
Yeah, one of my favorite scenes in this past season was in the second episode, I think it was, where he's sitting down for that interview with the reporter, and he's able to convince her that she should come and join the movement. Now that the season's wrapped up, I wonder if there were any standout moments for you that you wanted to talk about that really showcased what you think the show did best.
Yeah, in episode 8, which is one of my favorite episodes. I mean, I love all of them, but episode 8 has this episode called "The Shore," where Aaron Paul and his son go on this long walk, and they see the sort of ghost of Aaron's brother who died, who sort of brought him to the movement. And during all that, a body's being buried and a baby's being born. And to me, that episode really captures what the show wants to be, which is, sort of about faith, about mysticism, about spirituality, about, what we're running from and what we're running to. And it's a very emotional episode, and I just love that.
Mm-hmm. You bring that up, and I think it showcases, there's a lot of really striking visual moments in this show. And I spoke with your cinematographer, and I spoke with the director of your first 2 episodes, Mike Cahill. I wonder if you could talk a bit about finding those guys, finding the best people to really put your vision on the screen.
Well, you know, I definitely wanted the show to have a sort of visual language, and Mike Cahill came to, like, me, you know, I had seen his movies, Another Earth, which I thought, you know, sort of does what the show tries to do, which is explore, like, what else could be out there, you know, is there something out there? And he does it with such beauty and heart, and the characters are so raw. We also wanted to capture that sort of, you know, we didn't want it to feel like TV with, like, you know, people. We wanted to feel real and a little dirty, and so, you know, he came in and just, he just got it. He got that vision. And then Yaron, who is the DP, you know, he too, you know, we work with 3 cameras. You know, there's not a lot of lighting, and everyone sort of embraced this idea and embrace, like, this visual language. And it's so great where we're set, where the show's set. It's like in this exquisite nature, which to me is like where I feel God, you know, when I'm like in the woods or by the sea. So I think that nature became a very important part of the show.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, they talked about showing that the visual beauty in a lot of those instances, which really does, I think, help contrast with some of the darker undercurrents of the show. So now that the first season's wrapped up, I hate to sound like a broken record, but you guys just got renewed for a 2nd season. You ended on quite a cliffhanger, not to give anything away, but can you give us any kind of a hint of what we might be able to expect? Have you already started writing these next few episodes?
Yeah, we've written 2 episodes, and it's really fun because we shift the whole paradigm of the first season. So now, you know, the sort of relationships that we had in season 1, without giving, I don't want to give anything away. Everything's different. Everything's changed for season 2, and I think there's, you know, it's just, you know, I feel like we have an opportunity to go deeper into what it is to believe, what it is to be in the secular world without faith. How do you be in a family where one half of the family is in and someone's out? So it just allows, I think having a 2nd season is so exciting because we get to go deeper into the sort of thematics that we explored the first time.
So is it an exciting time to work in television? I mean, you came from, you've got quite a background. You came from Juilliard, you were a playwright, you worked on Parenthood and a couple other shows, you've done a movie. Is it an exciting time to be in television right now?
I mean, it's thrilling. I can't believe the stories you're able to tell in television, right? Like, it's amazing. Like, I don't know, you know, the show with these kind of stories, I don't think you could have made this like 20 years ago. But I think as writers, there's no better place to write right now, because truly you can deeply invest in characters, you can invest in story, you can invest in theme, you can let things breathe now with this stream. It's just amazing. It's great. I love it. I'm so happy.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, and congratulations on the show. And it was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Di. All right.
Thank you. Bye. Have a great day.
You too.
Thank you.